Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Hot Topics, the show, the podcast. This is Gloria Goldberg, the founder of the podcast Unbreakable Life with Glory, where I talk about depression, anxiety, PTSD in a holistic way, a natural way to always make you feel better. And next to me, like always, my beautiful, successful co host, Kia Baker.
Hi. So you probably know me by now. And if you don't, my name is Kia Baker. I am the creator and host of the Female Veterans Podcast and Women Warrior Stories for the Veterans Channel and success coach at the famed London Real Academy, where our fearless leader and my friend, Brian Rose, has just announced that he's running for mayor of London. So,
Yeah,
you guys, I don't even know what to do. I am still in shock. We knew something was going on. We
yeah,
knew that there was something brewing, but
yes.
who knew? I thought it was going to be a reality show.
You thought that?
Yeah, I thought he was going to do a reality
No.
show. And to be honest with you, I wasn't that excited about it.
I really saw that direction for him.
You saw the mayor?
I
Just
know.
him
I
running
saw
for
the
office?
direction. I saw the direction of the way he was going. I saw the direction before
Well,
you told me.
I should not have been surprised, but I knew something was big was coming because I could feel it. I could feel it in the energy. And my friend and friendtor, as she calls it, Christina, was telling me that something was going on, but she was sworn to secrecy.
Of
So
course.
I thought it was a reality show.
Well, he did one time, right? He was like doing trying to do a reality show when the pandemic started. I think they canceled. I don't know. Something
I don't
happens there.
know. I don't know the details. I don't know. It's funny because I do work with London Real. I'm actually an independent contractor, and so I work for myself.
Right.
But I work closely with the team, and I love Brian. So I mean, we spent time with him in London last year,
Yes. Yes.
and
Yes.
that was pretty incredible. I think he's dope, and I hope he wins. I do. I think that he's smart and savvy, and he is a successful businessman. And
Yeah.
that the thing about him that I think differentiates him as a businessman, going into politics, is that and I don't want to go too into politics because I'm old
Right.
fashioned and I don't like to
Right.
talk about politics, religion, or abortion really.
Right.
But
Right. Right. Right.
but I will say this because it's my friend. Um, he's different, whereas he really does care about transformations of people. And I know that it can be argued that maybe he doesn't. And I know that there are a lot of people who have had an experience that they don't like, you know what I mean, with either the academy or whatever. But everybody makes mistakes and everybody
Yes.
has different, experiences with people. And so he's human. And I think that is really important. Like, he's a real person who's trying to do something really good. Yes, he's savvy in business, so that will be helpful. But he really
Right.
does, in my opinion, he really does care about him. What I know and what I've experienced of him is he really cares about people. He really does. And the transformations
Yes.
that I see happen at London Real and the connections you make at London Real Academy are for real,
For
are
real.
legit.
Yes.
And so if I lived in London, he'd have my vote. And and
Me too.
I really hope he wins and he does something great for that city, because whatever he sets his mind to, he does it in a
He
big
does
way,
it.
in an
Yes.
amazing way, and a
Yes.
caring way. And when he does make a mistake, I like to believe that he'll correct it. So we'll see
Right.
what happens. And yeah.
When we spent the time in London with him, I saw him very authentic. He was very real. He sit down with us the whole entire time, the whole dinner. We have a nice conversation, and you know what? I don't have nothing like weird to say about him. But always people's gonna talk about you in some way or another. So I think he's used to that. But he don't care because he always like a focus in the on the future, on the now. He don't focus on what is going on in the back.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that he'll create really good strategies and really be beneficial. So I hope he wins, and I'm super proud of
Yes.
him. So I'm just going on record as saying that, and I can't wait to see what impact this has on the academy, and just go along for the ride. I guess I'm buckling my seatbelt because this is going to be a wild ride.
Let's see if he's gonna come one day to Hot Topics to interview the mayor of London.
I better send him a booking request right now. Fortunately, I have his booking email. So we'll see what happens.
Right,
So,
right,
anyway, like, where are you? You've been traveling. I've been seeing all of your posts and everything like that all around. Where are
right.
you now?
Right now, I'm in Satellite Beach.
Oh, you're at the beach. I'm so jealous. I love the
See?
coast. The water just
Yeah,
grounds me.
yeah,
So you look beachy. You're chilling. So what have
yes.
you been doing on your trip?
Hiking, eating, fighting, reconciliation.
Just like it's like a good trip.
Everything. Everything what happens when you travel for many days with your husband for 24/7. There's a lot of things going on at the same time.
Well, I gotta say, I love a road trip. So I'm happy for you getting out and having such a great experience. I
Yes.
don't know about flying just yet, though, because I'm hearing that there's like no real social distancing on the plane for a lot of flights. And so while I'm not super hyper about COVID, while I know it's a real thing, I wear my mask, I do my precautions, more so because I've had two COVID tests already and I know that I don't have it. So more so for other people, right, to be considerate. But I don't know about flying. I'm a little bit nervous about that.
I still with the theory that if you're gonna die from something, you're gonna die for something. And how long we gonna keep wearing the mask? For how long? Who's gonna have the key to cut the prolongation of the virus? There's no key. There's no like, okay, up to here, you're not gonna pass. It's there, and everybody in some way is gonna get it. So I don't know. I was asking that question today, like how long we need to wear that for how long, and how long the people's gonna be afraid of it. We don't know that.
Yeah, I was talking to my friend in Australia in Melbourne, and they're on a massive lockdown right now.
Oh my
You know,
God. Yes.
massive. So it's like countries are relocking down, and things are happening, and I think we're all really over it, but it's not gone. So we
No,
have to do
it's
what we
not.
have to do.
Exactly,
It's like
exactly.
it's like we're all in the unknown, right? So,
Yeah.
so I guess we have to make the best of the present moment and just make it as amazing as possible, like going on a
Yes.
road trip with your husband and going all up the coast and having a wild experience, right?
and and fighting up and down all the mountains. why why you go this way? Why you go this way?
Said every married couple ever. They identify with what you're saying.
I
So,
think a lot of them.
so as you know, we have a guest today.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yes, and he legitimately is someone so special to me. Okay, because you know how I say at London Real Academy, you see the transformations happen. And
Yes.
this one is really, really dear to my heart. Okay,
Yes,
so
you told me that.
yes, one of my students has granted us some time to come and talk, and he's really smart and creative. And when he first came to me, he was a bit of an introvert. And what he created was a podcast for people like himself called the Awkward Mind podcast. And
Awesome.
it's taken off like gangbusters. And he's doing a really amazing job. It's getting really popular. So if you haven't checked it out, you should really listen to it, especially if you've ever felt awkward, you've ever felt out of place, you've ever felt like an introvert. Like this might be a tribe for you. And even more so, then he created this really, really cool coaching program. And now he's really helping people. So, without further ado, I want to introduce everyone to my friend, Yuriy Nayer, host of the Awkward Mind podcast.
Wow, what an intro, Kia. Thank you very much. Hi,
Hey,
Gloria.
hey, Julie,
Uh,
how are you?
I'm doing great. So great to see you, ladies. It's a little mind blowing to be on my favorite live show.
Oh, it's so
Oh,
sweet. How much do
Yeah.
we
you
love you?
you look so handsome, so
Thank
beautiful,
you.
like with
Oh.
dress up. I
Well,
like that.
yeah, it's an important occasion, so I wanted to, look good for you, ladies.
Oh, that's
Well,
nice.
I love a man in a suit. So I'm so glad that you came and dolled up for us. I appreciate you.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about being introverted because I know that Gloria has questions and I have questions too.
Yes.
Absolutely, let's do it. Because otherwise, we'd be talking about religion, politics, and abortion. And
Right.
And you know, I
Yes.
don't talk about that stuff in
yes,
public.
No, 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 no. So, Jury, tell everybody who's Jury and why you're gonna talk about today about introverts.
yeah, sure. I mean, in a nutshell, because I know we don't have all day. I was born in
Yes.
Belarus in the former Soviet Union. My family moved to the United States when I was 11 years old, and I grew up in New York. And I went into theater, so I'm a bit of a nerd on the technical side, working backstage and lighting live events and productions and setting up for all that good stuff. And yes, deep at heart, although Kia will say that I'm not allowed to identify myself as an introvert anymore, but as Gloria and I talked a little bit off the air before we came on here, I am still deep at heart an introvert.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
should have to be proud of who you are.
Mhm.
Even we call it introvert.
Mm.
Absolutely.
I stand by that you're an ambivert now. So let's get into it a little bit.
Yes, let's
So
Mhm.
go.
Yuri, where are you now actually?
I am in New York City, in Midtown Manhattan, smack in the middle of it all.
Wow. So how are things? We were just actually we don't talk about the pandemic much anymore, but
Right.
I was talking to someone today in Australia and we talked about it. So I'm actually curious, how are things over there on the East Coast in New York?
I mean, I think they're a little bit challenging for a lot of people, but just like with everything, it is what you make of it. So we just have to adapt and make the best do of what it is, short of, getting into politics, which we don't talk about. I think that's what it is, everyone is doing the best they can. And I try not to assign intent ever to people's actions. So I just walk into it assuming that they're doing the best with the information that they have and that sometimes people can be wrong. And then we'll learn from that and hopefully adapt and just come out better after this is all over.
I agree. I agree. I
Mhm.
mean, I think we're all just doing the best we can with what
Mhm.
information we have and,
Mhm.
you know, how we can best enjoy life still. So,
Mhm.
Yuri, what do you consider an introvert? What would you explain an introvert to be?
Hmm.
Yeah. That's a great question, and I put it. I know different people sort of define it slightly differently, but the differences between sort of being, I don't know, what's the word, a hermit, and just not wanting to be around people, and being an introvert to me is simply someone who, when they interact with people, it drains their energy, so then they need time alone to recharge versus an extrovert who would be the opposite, right? Being around a lot of people actually gives them a lot of energy, and then being alone actually starts to drain them, and then they need to go out into social interactions. So, yeah, I just define it as that simple distinction as to whether you get energy or lose energy from being around other people.
That's very interesting.
Mhm.
So, so an introvert, because I want you to like, let's go a little bit deeper.
Mhm.
When you discovered that you discovered that you was introvert.
Yeah, I guess so. I didn't necessarily put a label on it.
Right.
I don't know exactly when. I'd have to think. So I don't know if that's really important right now necessarily, of when I realized that that's the label that was appropriate. Because when it comes to work and certain environments, I'm actually very outgoing and very direct. But when it comes to accomplishing specific projects, so in a work environment, I can actually be very extroverted. But when it comes to social interaction, I could be a little bit, shall we say, socially awkward. And so that's when I realized that so in that sense, I'm an introvert.
Right on. I can identify with that because, for a lot of years, it was just me and my kid, and I didn't have a lot of social interaction outside of that, right? Because I was a stay-home mom.
Mhm.
So before I returned to work, and I really felt like I got socially awkward. Like I would go to parties and I would either talk too much or not talk enough, and I always felt uncomfortable and awkward. I would go into crowds and I would like have mild panic. Like I just didn't know how to relate anymore after
Mhm.
being at home for so long, and just my major chill partner was a toddler for a small child for a long time, right? I'm always watching
Mhm.
children's shows or doing child related things. And so when you get
Mhm.
around adults, it's like, how do I interact anymore? And so I can definitely identify with that feeling of being awkward.
Mhm.
So people, because people say, oh, that when somebody is like awkward, people say, oh, that guy is weird. Oh, that guy likes to be alone. What's going on with him? That happens to
Mm.
you when you was growing up?
I guess so, to a degree. I can't think it's funny actually. Someone asked me the other day when I was a guest on another podcast if I can remember an awkward moment, in which I realized I don't necessarily remember specific moments, because I realize I'm someone who doesn't dwell in the past. So I don't remember a lot of details about specific events necessarily, which is something actually I'm learning to be better at, to really live in the moment and really embrace and process the things that are happening to me as they go. But as far as awkward, I think, yeah, I mean, being able to like come into a group that's already formed, that's having a conversation, I can be that weird guy that's sort of hanging out around the periphery, not knowing how to jump in, and I'm sort of learned how to overcome that. Actually, so yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question fully, but
Yes,
that's.
yes, yes. And to be an introvert, it will
Mm.
help you to be in a relationship, or is being a problem for you to be in a relationship?
That's a great question. And I think the non-answer would be that it depends.
Mm-hmm.
But to try to unpack it a little bit, I think it just depends on the other person. I think with all relationships, and I realized this a lot later in life than maybe I could have, unfortunately. But it comes down to just being open to communication, even though it may be a little challenging for an introvert to do that, but to finding ways to overcome that and have that open line of communication, so you can express clearly the amount of space and what your needs are in that relationship, and try to find a person who's understanding. Obviously, if you're going to be in a relationship with an extrovert who needs a lot of that social interaction, it might be challenging unless you find a balance where they get that energy somewhere else, and then they're able to give you what the space that you need.
So I have a story about that to support
Mm-hmm.
that response, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was young, I got married really young in the Navy, and I actually married an introvert. Like he was introverted, he was antisocial. Let's just like I was like the only person that he would socialize with, and that's cool. That's totally cool. But in order for our marriage to last as long as it did, being that we were all freshly out of the military and going to
Mm-hmm.
college and working, we took in some roommates because
Mm-hmm.
I needed to, like at that time, before I settled down later again with my second husband and kids and all that, like I was really outgoing for a period. Like I had gone from being introverted to extroverted and back and forth many times in my life, right? So at this point in my
Mhm.
life, I was super extroverted, and
Mhm.
I felt kind of contained. Like I was
Mhm.
completely drained, like you were saying, by just being around one person all
Mhm.
the time with no other outlets, that it got to a point where it was probably going to break our marriage, and actually
Mhm.
eventually did, because eventually even having the roommates, because he was so unhappy having the roommates and I was so happy
Mhm.
having the roommates. So you see, it couldn't work because we were
Mhm.
so different and what we needed for our social environment. So I do think that it does depend on the partner as well,
Mhm.
Gloria. Like if you can, you have to somehow create a balance, and then and
Mhm.
have some sort of agreements in place that you both can live with for the long term, or it's likely not going to work out.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a book that unfortunately I read too late for my first serious relationship to work, but a great book is Five Love Languages by, I
Mm.
want to say it's yeah, Gary Chapman.
Mm-hmm.
It's That's a fantastic book because that just opens
Yes.
your eyes to realizing, oh, people are just wired differently, and you have to recognize that, and different people will appreciate different gestures from you, right? And have different ways of expressing love and also receiving love. And for me, that was like a huge aha moment.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up because I
Mhm.
love that book.
Yeah.
And in fact, actually, so one of the things that helped me when I like to say I'm a recovering awkward person
Mhm.
because when I was going to go back to work, I read this book called Captivate by Vanessa Van
Mhm.
Edwards. And she talks about the five love languages and that book in her book, right?
Mhm.
Follow that. And it was like really amazing because that is really eye opening when you recognize that someone needs to give love in a way. It could be
Mhm.
completely different than the way that they receive love, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And now my question for you, Yuri,
Mhm.
is do you think that being like an introvert has any impact on how someone gives or receives love, or what their love language is?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. That's a great question, actually. Whether the two are connected. I mean, we may have to ask like relationship coaches or psychologists for the real answer. But
Mhm.
for
I
me,
just want
yes,
your
I
opinion.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think for me, yes, absolutely. Because right, for me, receiving love, I actually don't like a lot of attention. Just knowing that someone is there is sufficient, and that was hard for someone to realize.
Wow.
Right. Whereas for me, showing love, I'm also not affectionate in the traditional sense. Like I'm not one to shower you with love or compliments or gifts necessarily, because one of my love languages in the way I show love is just action, right? So it's I will do something for you without being asked, right? You may mention something that you want something done, and then the next thing you know, it's done, and that's the best way I know how to show love because I'm driven by projects. So I love to get things done, and that's how I express love the best. So yes, Key, I think the short answer is yes, absolutely. There is a connection because I bet a lot of extroverts probably do love that attention and love getting that attention in return. Right.
So,
Wow.
and I asked this question to him in private about he if he would be able to be with a needy person.
Ooh, now we're
Right.
getting to attachment styles.
Right. Well, that's a challenging question. I mean, the thing that I learned in a couple of my serious relationships that I've been in over the years is you need to be careful there because you're actually at the end of the day, you're actually hurting the other person because you're creating an environment in which they're not able to learn how to rely on themselves and how to have that independence because we are creatures of comfort. So if you enter into a relationship where everything is taken care of it for you, and I've had this relationship actually with one of my exes a couple years after the fact, and he simply just said to me, well, yes, I knew that it was hurting me in the short term, or maybe even in the longer term, but I was comfortable, and so I just kept going along with it. So you
Wow.
have to be careful. So in terms of personalities, now I'm much more. protective. So I'm much more careful in terms of like a truly like a needy or a clingy person that's just not attractive to me. But as far as someone that just may need a little bit of a leg up, you think that you're helping them by offering that support, but you have to be careful that you don't actually create a permanent crutch for them and hurt them long term.
Wow, that's deep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
most people, I think, don't really like needy people, like in
Mm-hmm.
relationship. Like a lot of times. So, from my understanding of what I've learned about attachment styles, is that typically when you're perceived as needy, it's very difficult depending on the type of person that you get together with. So if you
Mm-hmm.
connect with someone who is also needy, you guys can sort of supply each other in a way. However, most of the time, a needy person is attracted to someone who's not needy, who's actually kind of turned off by it. And then
Mm-hmm.
it causes like, it's like sort of like an opposites attract sort of thing. And then
Right.
but
Yeah.
over the long term it doesn't survive and one ends up hurting the other, usually the person who's avoidant or dismissive,
Mm-hmm.
or even a healthy person who has a healthy attachment style, because in the long term even a healthy person gets exhausted
Mm-hmm.
because of the energy that it requires to
Yeah.
constantly fill someone else's cup. So this is why we fill our own cup, and then when someone else pours into your cup it just overflows, right?
But
Mm-hmm.
it's also Kia and Yuri. There's all kind of different needy people. Like there's not a specific. Oh, you're needy, and so that goes in one balloon. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm needy, and where I'm needy when because I need a lot of love. I need attention. I need kisses. They hug. They like they told me that they love me. I need that, but
Okay, okay,
I don't need the man to do everything for me. You understand what I'm saying?
but
When it's
but
about
there's a
love.
difference. There's a
Mm-hmm.
difference. Okay, there's a difference in what you're talking about. Do you agree, Yuri? Like
Yeah.
we're talking about
Absolutely.
something else. Like we're talking about someone who's excessively needy, like
No.
needs that stuff to an excessive degree. It's one thing to have needs in a relationship. That's normal. Everyone has needs. Everyone has
Mm-hmm.
ways that they wish to receive love and give love, like the five love
Mm-hmm.
languages. But we're
Right.
talking about someone who they sort of break down if they don't have an excessive degree of this need met. So maybe someone who, let me see if I can find an example. Maybe someone likes affection. Like we all like, oh, I like affection. You like affection. Yuri, not so much. Okay. So
Not too much.
we're all different, right? But
Yeah.
say, for example, I like affection and I give affection, and but there's my partner constantly needs me on, like constantly, and whenever I need to do something else, to the point where I can't do things for myself. I can't, it's not healthy where I'm constantly having to give attention to this person 24/7. I can't get anything done on my own
No, that's too
because
much.
they're demanding it. It's one thing if you're doing it because you're trying to win that person over, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
you're like, okay, this isn't who I am. I can't keep it up. That's on you, honey. But if this person is like throwing fits and tantrums because you're not giving them 100% of your attention, then that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of what we mean by needy, or somewhere along that spectrum, because there is a spectrum involved with it. What do you think, Yuri?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think a lot of it comes from just lack of self awareness and lack of self confidence. So it almost comes down to that you need this other person in order to feel alive. Actually, we can say, right. And so without that person, I think a lot of that comes from insecurity when it's expressed to that kind of an unhealthy degree. And so I think that could be a serious challenge, and that's something you have to recognize and work through.
Agreed. Agreed. What do you think,
I
Gloria?
I know. I really I don't care if they call me needy, but I really love that they give me kisses and hug me and tell me all the time they love me. They are
Mm.
crazy for me. I like that. I
Mhm.
I want that. I just want that.
Yeah, so it just means Gloria's love languages. I think it's called signs of affection. I might butcher the what
Yeah.
exactly they are, but I think that's one of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is one too. And actually, Gloria, I'm like that too. Like I am super attentive. So one of my love languages is to give attention and to give affection, right? I also like words of affirmation, right?
Mhm.
So I like nice words. I like nice things like that. But I'm not so much for gifts. I like gifts, but it's not necessary for me. I'm not so much for acts of service. I mean, it's nice. I do like grand gestures. I love a grand gesture, honey. But it's not necessary for me as much as
Right.
Mhm.
hearing nice things, which is probably my number one, and then physical touch, which is that affection. And
Mhm.
typically, um like the last person I think that like my ex was the other way around. He was physical touch and then acts of service and then words of affection and affirmation was not as important to him. So I mean I think it varies for people, but when you
Mhm.
connect, you if you discuss it, you have like a better chance at figuring out if you are well suited.
Mhm.
Mom. Oh, one
Mhm.
second.
So, Yuriy, what did make you to do this podcast? What was your idea? What exactly say? Okay, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I guess we have to blame Kia in the long run for that one. But to give you just a short backstory, basically, I was trying to have meaningful conversations and cut through the nuance on social media. And since the pandemic started, so since about March, and I just was getting nowhere. People seem to not be interested in having meaningful conversations, at least in a social media context. And then, I came across this guy, Brian Rose, who was talking about a podcasting course and how to have a way to broadcast yourself. And so I thought, well, this could be a great way to have those conversations that I was failing to have on social media. And so that's where the podcast came from. And then I took the course, and Kia, with the help of London Real, guided me through it. And now we're 30 episodes in.
I'm so proud of you. So that's amazing. And so when you interview guests, right, you learn a lot. What have you learned? What are some of the things that you've learned from interviewing these awkward minds on your show?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a amazing question. I love that. And we are all, I have to say, we are all a little bit awkward. I do believe that in our own different ways. And so that's why the Awkward Mind podcast, because I think we can all in some ways relate to that. But as far as what I learned, one of the biggest, I think, lessons, and I kind of suspected it, it has always been my thesis, but the more conversations that I have, the more it's confirmed. And that's the fact that we're much more similar than we are different. And there are these artificial or external forces that make us think otherwise. But there's actually a lot more that unites us as human beings than we realize. And if we can just cut through the BS, then we can find those connections and actually build a better society. And I truly believe that. And so that's been the biggest lesson.
Wow, that's amazing. What do you think about
Mhm.
that, Gloria?
Yeah, it's very cool your subject about introverts because a lot of people don't know too much about you guys. You need to be a
Mhm.
doctor or therapist to know about introverts. But you
Mhm.
go in life knowing all these people and you hear, oh, that guy is weird. Oh, that guy,
Mhm.
oh, that woman is weird. She don't like to talk too much. Or
Mhm.
he likes to be alone. And or also you hear your girlfriends, oh, I went with this guy out, and yes, we went out last night, but he don't call me next day, or he don't call me in 2 days, or he don't call me in 3 days. And the guy called like nothing happened, like, hey, how are you? And it's because the guy is an introvert. So people
Mhm.
don't understand that kind of characteristics that introverts they have. And if you want to have an introvert, like as a woman, they have to understand how they are. And if you want to have an introvert as a man, you also have to understand also the
Mhm.
character of the women too. Because what do you think that introvert women, introvert men are the same? They act kind of the same way?
Yeah, well, I think there's probably right. There probably similarity. I mean, men and women, I do believe we have our differences that make us better together. But I would imagine that as far as personality types, that being an introvert, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, you would
Right.
have that similar tendency to want to have that downtime. And I do think, just to kind of expand on it a little bit, it is different from being antisocial, because I
Mhm.
think that's a whole different category of people where they really don't like to be around people. And they may actually be extroverted in a funny way, meaning that they don't actually get, you know, they don't lose energy from being around people. It's just they don't want to do it. They don't want to be around other people for whatever reason. But I think that's a different spectrum from an introvert versus an extrovert.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I have experience.
Hmm.
So I'm going to agree with that. Because like I said, I spent a lot of time going back and forth sort of between being an introvert and an extrovert, which
Hmm.
I came to later understand a relatively new term called an ambivert, which is someone who sometimes needs to be alone and sometimes withdraw into their little turtle shell, if you will. And then sometimes they can just turn it on, step into
Hmm.
their alter ego, right? And light up a room. And
Hmm.
so I'd like to think that I can do that. Okay. Like
Hmm.
I like to think that in the moment, I can work a room, I can socialize, I can host a party, entertain. I love to host a party. In fact, I love to gather around people. I miss those days. And serve cocktails and have like a nice cocktail party or something like that. And then I would say I'm on, if you will.
Hmm.
But there are also times where I just don't want to be around anybody and I just want to be alone and read a book or write or do some meditation. And I really just want to be alone. It's really hard when you have kids, by the way. But there are times when it's just super necessary for me. So, in a way, I think that being, I guess, an introvert or being awkward can actually be a superpower. And I wanted to talk to you about that a little bit, Yuri. What are your thoughts on that? What are the benefits, do you think, in certain settings that being an introvert or having an awkward mind can be really beneficial?
Mm. That's a wonderful question. I think it gives you the opportunity to step back and reflect and assess the situation and look at other people. I think it's what makes introverts great interviewers and great podcasters, is because we tend to be better at listening. And maybe that's a stereotype to a degree, but an extrovert sometimes tends to overflow with energy that it's harder for them to contain in a social setting. So they're not as aware of the energies going on around them. So I think an introvert is better suited to really evaluate and step back. So I think in a way that is a way, because you're able to then in certain situations actually diffuse a situation just by being the one to step back and really assess and evaluate the energies in those situations, right? The other thing I would say, and Kia, definitely relate to what you were talking about a little bit earlier about wanting to be on sometimes and hosting parties. I do think that there are no hopeless cases. I do think that social skills are exactly that, is that you can learn how to be on when you need to be. And I've certainly found that just by going through this exercise of interviewing basically strangers. Very few of my guests are people that I've known in real life. So there is that rapport that you have to build and there's that ice that you have to break. And so going through that exercise, I think, gives me the skills to have those social connections and that I can be on and that I actually do start to enjoy those interactions to a degree. And so that's been wonderful as well. And yeah, and you've also taught me this new term of being an ambivert, which now I keep using and teaching other people about it.
Let's Reddit. Let's Reddit. I don't even remember where I got that from, but maybe it was Vanessa Van Edwards. I don't know.
Mhm.
Someone, maybe on London Real, on YouTube. I don't
Mhm.
know, but it is a great term, and I
Mhm.
think that it's being an ambivert is most certainly a superpower. I think
Mhm.
because just being able to turn it on and turn it off in any setting is a gift. And so, in order to do that,
Yes. So,
you have to
Yuri, I
practice.
have a question for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Gloria?
delay on in my side, so I don't know
Oh,
if I
no.
cut you in the middle of what you're saying.
No, you're good. I was finished. Can you hear me?
You hear me?
Yeah, I
Hmm.
hear you great. That's what happens when it's live.
Right. Exactly. I was getting ready. I was excited
Right.
for the question.
Yuriy, so I have a question for you. Okay, the question is, when you are in your downtown, in your time, in your downtime, are you
Mhm.
are in the present, are you in the future, or you're in the past?
Whoa. All right. We're going deep.
How we roll.
I think I would say that, and let's see if I can sort of create a little riddle here. In the past, I was probably more past focused because introverts tend to, and maybe this is true for everyone, but I know it tends to be more true for introverts. They're the person that's the hardest on themselves, right? So there's no person that will judge me more harshly than me. And so I think in the past I was more focused on the past, and now in my downtime I tend to be more future focused. And if anything, I think the pandemic has accelerated that thinking for me of realizing that you have to be future focused. And that's why one of the questions that I ask all my guests now, and I don't really give them the option because the question is phrased as, why are you optimistic about the future? Right. And because I think that's the only way to be, because if you're not optimistic about the future, well, that means there is no future. And then what does that really say? So that's a great question, Gloria. But I think yes, there's a place for reflection and for learning, but that's different from dwelling and constantly going over and over your mistakes in your head and being hard on yourself, right? Because the past is a cancel check. There's nothing we can do. But the future is a promissory note. It's not guaranteed, but the best we can do is live now and prepare for the future.
Right.
So I hope that helps.
I still have a little delay. Yes, yes, yes.
Well, you know what? I think that I would agree with you. I think that you have to have hope for the future. I mean, I know that we need to be in the present and we need to be in the now, right? But we have to be hopeful for the future. And if we don't, if we're not in the now visualizing what our future
Mhm.
could be like, then how are we going to create it?
Yeah,
So I agree
exactly.
with you, Gary. And why not be optimistic? Because what kind of future do you want to create?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And it doesn't mean that you're blind to the realities of what's happening or that you're somehow ignoring what's happening. It just means that you're looking to build a brighter future in spite of what might be happening right now.
Mhm. I agree. So Yuri, I have another question for you, but I wanna move a little bit towards your coaching. Okay,
Mhm.
what inspired you to develop a coaching program?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think part of it was, to be honest, was just going through the exercise of doing it as part of the business accelerator. But the other part was just what I was said in the beginning about the podcast is right. There was this negative stereotypes and negative stigma around social media and the experiences that you can have there, and just negative connotation. And I realized in going through the business accelerator and hearing some of the feedback and some of the challenges that people were having, I realized in just looking at my own experience and how it has transformed on social media, I realized, well, I can help other people and walk them through and actually help them develop a healthier relationship with social media, because I do believe that at the end of the day, it is just a tool, right? Leaving all the politics and all the sort of the negativity that's going on right now aside, and all the conspiracy theories, because we don't need to go there. At the end of the day, it is a tool, and it is a tool that's, whether we like it or not, is here to stay, right? Technology is not going away. And so it may not be Facebook in the next 10 years, it might be something else, but it'll still be here. And this digital component of the way we interact with each other is still going to be here. And so it's best to learn now how to have that healthy relationship, because I do believe it has a huge unhealthy component, unfortunately, where we've become addicted to it in a very unhealthy way. And so we're getting these instant dopamine hits from it without really getting any kind of positive feedback back. And I believe that we can flip the tables on the algorithm and actually create a positive experience on social media, right? Like look like what we're doing right now, right? This is happening live on Facebook and probably YouTube. And as long as they have us on the platform, this can happen. And this is a very positive and hopefully inspirational experience for other people. So you can create this on social media. It just takes a little bit of work.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So the name of your, I'm going to throw it up here, Social Media Detox, and you're a mindset coach. And we're going to make sure we got your name up here as well, so everyone sees that. And so you created this in order to help people like sort of break that addiction to dopamine that we get when we hear those dings and those bells, and when we're scrolling. You created this program, right? So tell me, what do you think would be the maximum benefit people could get from your course?
Well, the tagline that I sort of assigned to it is you go from mindless scrolling to meaningful engagement. So I
Mm.
think that's my goal with the course, is that you basically go from being addicted and from using social media in this haphazard, mindless way where you keep constantly falling into the rabbit hole. And and we've all done this, right? I'm guilty of this myself as well. Is next you pick up the phone, and next thing you know, it's been a half hour or even an hour later, and you don't know where the time has gone. And that entire time you're just on social media, and you didn't learn anything, you didn't create anything, you didn't get inspired by anything, you just mindlessly scrolled that entire time. And you don't know that time is now lost. And so that's my hope, is that people, from going through, and it's a very simple, kind of 6-step process, by going through it, that people get that time back in their life, and that they start to engage with social media in a meaningful way. Because like I said before, it is a tool, it's not going away. So we do need to have it as part of our life. It's just creating a healthier relationship so that you are in control of what part social media plays in your life, instead of letting it dictate how you live your life.
Wow, that
That is
is amazing.
awesome.
Yeah.
And a lot of people need that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's a huge challenge, especially right now, because everyone is stuck at home, so they're more glued to the devices than ever. And so my hope is, with just this small little course, to play a small role in trying to break people of that habit.
Yes. That would
I
be good, very good for like young generations.
Hmm. Although I do think it's for everyone, because it also encourages you to just build a healthier relationship regardless of your age group. Because I do expect in a few years that something like TikTok or whatever replaces it is going to have the soccer moms on it, and that's when the social media platform has made it. When you see soccer moms on there, that's the test.
Yeah, well, it's true. And I love the program, Yuri, because you know what? It's just simple steps that everyone can follow to just, sort of take a breather, like take a moment and assess where you're at in your social media consumption. Because you're right. I mean, there's been so many times where I have just went to go engage and, make posts about the podcast or hot topics or something like that. And then something catches my eye and then I'm down the rabbit hole. So, I mean, I think it's a great course. And if struggling with social media, maybe you don't think you're addicted to social media, but think about how much time you are on. You can actually check out your activity on a lot of these platforms and I'll show you. And if you're finding that, you're on your phone at dinner with your entire family, everyone's on their phone, especially in lockdown, this could
Yes.
be a time where you are engaging with the people around you and being really present and building really tight bonds so that when these lockdowns and when this time passes, that you're closer than ever, right? But if everyone's on a device, as you're just
Mhm.
all on Instagram messaging each other, you you are really divided. You're in the same room, but you're not present with each other, right? So this could be such a great tool, I
Right.
think. I thought it was a great idea. And I love that you get to share this knowledge with people
Yes.
and that you're helping people to do this. Actually, your course was really successful right out the gate. And I'm so proud of you, so happy for you to see that you're helping so many people of all different age groups.
Mhm.
Like from people, baby boomers all the way down, taking your course to like really re-engage with the people around them. And that's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've got everyone
It
from
is. It's
22 to
awesome.
76. So it is for everyone. I think we need to all put a little bit more social and a little less media into social media.
Yeah, you know what? I agree. Angeline, she says that she sees
Hmm.
young generations on their phones a lot. And I mean, definitely, I it's hard for me to
Hmm.
as my son
Oh,
is either
yes.
on video games or his phone. And so we have to put some limits. I mean, I try my best. But but we have to put some limits. And this detox and like we don't do phones at the dinner table when we sit down
Hmm.
to dinner together. When I have time for that because I'm so busy. But that's one of our household rules, right? And so I
Hmm.
think you have a lot of strategies that people can implement easily
Hmm.
to just make little tweaks to sort of change that, sort of detox a little bit.
Yep, absolutely. And it's
Yes.
huge. And the one thing when people forget, the one thing I'll remind them is that Steve Jobs did not allow his kids to play with the iPads.
Mm,
So, and just keep that in mind. And he's the one that created it. So I do really think it's a tool for adults in a way, and we have
Wow.
to be really mindful of that.
yeah. So one more thing, Yuri.
Mhm.
I remember you telling me something a while back. And you are sort of an expert in helping people develop real estate, but not the normal real estate you would expect, the one between our ears. So, Yuri, tell me a little bit more about that and how you can help people in that way.
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Kia. I don't know if I'd say I'm an expert. I just think it's something that I was able to reflect on. And in the pandemic, we all had a lot of extra time, and that's one of the things that I realized that we are all sitting on, like you said, this greatest real estate in the world, and it is the 9 inches between our ears, as I say. And we don't spend enough time developing it. And it's maybe because we spend too much time on social media or listening to the news or listening to other people. So we let other people develop our minds instead of developing it for ourselves. And so we really wind up going through life living, or by following, I should say, someone else's path. And so if we spend the time to really reflect and really develop that mind for ourselves, then we can really live the life that we want to live. And to me, that's the most exciting part. Because I realized in the pandemic, as all of this craziness was happening, one of the things that I say is I hit my 30s is I was slowly gaining weight and quickly losing time. And in the pandemic, I was able to reverse that. Is that I found that I have a lot more time to do the things that I want to do and learn the things that I want to learn by focusing on them and creating the routine to really focus on them. And at the same time, I noticed that in being more mindful, I was then able to create healthier habits in general and then all of a sudden reverse that weight gain as well as part of it. So I really do believe that a healthier and a developed mind is the key to a healthier body and a fatter wallet if that's what you want. And most importantly, which is kind of what we started in the towards the beginning of this conversation talking about, is just relationship and making those genuine connections with other people. I think it all stems from the mindset. And so if you can just develop your mind in a healthy, positive way and with an optimistic look at the future, then everything else in life kind of falls into place. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to have challenges that you're going to have to overcome, but you're going to come at those challenges from a place of strength rather than a place of weakness. And that's one of the things that I am huge on It's just personal responsibility and completely rejecting this victim mentality when it comes to life. Because we're meant to, as human beings, we're meant to struggle. That's how we were designed. That's how we survived for so many people, is by being faster, smarter, and better than all the obstacles that came at us on this planet. And I think sometimes we forget that this sort of cushy life, especially in the West, that we've created is very recent, right? For most of our existence as human beings, we did not have it this good. And I think we've forgotten that. And so we've fallen into this idea of just comfort and being a victim when something doesn't go our way. And I think by developing a mindset, we can break free of that idea. So that was sort of a long winded way to say, yes, focus on yourself and develop your mind, and then other things will fall into place for you.
That's true. That is awesome. So, Kia, we have 55 minutes already.
Yes, we do. And parting is but sweet sorrow. I have loved every minute of hanging out with you tonight, Yuriy. I love to see you, and you look so handsome, and I appreciate that. And you were great, giving us lots of great answers for all of our many questions. And I hope that people got a lot of value from what you have to say. And if there's someone out there that's an introvert or they are feeling a bit awkward, they walk away from this episode feeling like it's totally cool and they are just gonna live their life, recognize it can be a superpower, find someone who understands their love language,
Yes.
and live a happy, thriving life, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. And you too can one day realize your dream of being live on Hot Topic.
Dreams do come true, Yuriy.
Yuriy, it's an honor to have you in Hot Topics tonight. I love this subject because I have a little bit of that too. Maybe not like yours because everybody's different, but yes, I would love to have another conversation in another time. I'm more in deep about introvert people, so people will relate to you about this.
Yeah,
Aww.
absolutely. I would love that. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Kia. It was an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you
Aw,
so
well,
much.
thank you. Looks like you've got invited back. So, with that, I'm going to put you in the green room, honey. If you have to run, we understand. If you can hang around for a few minutes afterwards, we'll say our goodbyes then. And thank you again for being a guest on Hot Topics Live and the podcast.
The show.
My pleasure. All right. I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Wow. It's always fun. It's always
Yes,
fun.
it is. I love these subjects because it's every time you learn more about anything is value.
I agree. Oh, what happened? What did I
You
just
you
Oh, I hit something.
you
Okay.
put me in the green room.
I put you in the green room. I guess I was going to close the show by myself today. No, I'm just kidding. Never. So, my love, what do you think
Yes.
about that?
Is very introvert and extrovert, both sides are very difficult because extremes are difficult. I'm extreme. I could be very introvert or I can be very extrovert. I can be very funny or I can be like a very nasty. So
Oh, Patty. Okay. Well, we at London Real Academy, we all have alter egos. Thanks very much to Todd Herman and his intellectual property that we love to use and share with people from the Academy. If you haven't seen that episode of London Real, check it out on YouTube and learn about how an alter ego can really benefit you. So with that, we're going to close the show.
yes.
I'm Kia Baker. I am the host of the Female Veterans Podcast, Women Warrior Stories for the Veterans Channel, and Success Coach at London Real Academy. And I am always joined by the ever so lovely, ever so charming, ever so beautiful Gloria Goldberg.
Thank you so much, my dear. Well, you guys know my name is Gloria Goldberg, the founder and the and the host of the podcast Unbreakable Life with Glory, where I talk about depression, anxiety, and PTSD in a holistic way and natural way to always make you feel better. And also, I'm the founder and the host of the bilingual show, The Gloria, that is still in vacation and it's gonna come next week. So let's see who's coming next week with me and I will let you know. So thank you so much, everybody, to enjoy us today in Hot Topics. And we see you on next Wednesday. Thank you so much. 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Remember notifications and reply, hashtag reply, so we know you see us. Thank you.
So, notifications, share if you're on YouTube, and we'll see you next Wednesday. And hashtag replay in our comments so we know that you watched the replay. And we appreciate all of you guys who are watching during
Yes.
the replay. I mean, you guys are really, really watching this, and we appreciate you. So just thank you for
Yes.
sharing your time with us, and have a great night, and we'll see you next week.